This is the Paracave Podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Jack's Pale Ale, exclusively available at Parramatta Leagues Club, and co-sponsors Bo Cook from Loan Market, Scott from Brightside Detailing and Ceramics, Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty, BTZD Clothing, the official clothing partner of the Paracave Podcast, and the official media partner of the Paracave Podcast, the Parramatta Times.
Welcome to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Paracave.
All right, welcome here to a Weekend Warriors. You're here with the Duckman and with a special guest, Troy Warner from the Paracave Podcast. Troy, how you going?
I'm going pretty good, Duckman. Looking forward to another weekend of NRL. Looking forward to watching some footy.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to be a very good weekend indeed. So I think it will be very strong, very good football, and I'm looking forward to seeing what is going on as well. So let's have a look at the NRL for this weekend. Did you catch last night's game between the Titans and West Tigers?
Yeah, look, I caught bits and pieces of it and also caught the end of it as well. So it was a good game up at the Gold Coast. And, I mean, last year's game between these two sides at the same venue was called one of the most boring games ever in the NRL. It was 8-6 to the Titans, and we didn't know what to expect this year. But the Tigers, they've been playing some pretty good footy of late. Had a few losses, but they've been competitive, unlike the start of the season. And the Titans, well, they welcomed back AJ Brimson back into the side, which was a big boost for them, and playing at home. So it was always going to be an interesting encounter, and the Titans got away with it 28-12.
Yeah, there you go. So it was a good game, so I did see that. The Titans looked like they were in red-hot form too, so they looked very good. West Tigers just looked flat, but when I put it on, I didn't realise it didn't click in my head until a bit later in the game. Api Coruscant actually copped a high shot in a tackle when Tino Fasuamuali raised his forearm and cracked him one in the jaw and apparently broke his jaw in two spots.
Yeah, a bit of conjecture about that tackle. A lot of the rugby league experts and commentators on Fox and Channel 9 and on radio have actually defended Big Tino and said that it was just a contact sport and rugby league incident. A few people have said that Tino did raise his arm a little bit. My personal opinion was, unlike the tackle with Reid Marnie a couple of weeks ago, I thought in that tackle he did raise his arm and was going to be in a bit of trouble for that one. I didn't think this one was a raising of the arm. I just thought he had his arm there, he was bracing for the tackle. Appy's a smaller man, Tino's a bigger man. It's a contact sport, and Appy tried to tackle the bigger man, and just a big collision, it happened. So unfortunately for Appy, he's now gone for about 8 weeks with those 2 breaks in his jaw, and will miss the entire rest of the Origin series after playing in Game 1. So and the NRL came out this morning, and as we record this, and cleared Tino of any findings, I guess you could call it.
Yeah, it's interesting that this has happened too. So the other thing that people might not know about what's happened out of that is that it's changed around the whole State of Origin setup now too. So Cleary got injured the other day. Api Coruscant, his position was probably up for grabs. Everyone thought he played all right. But they were looking at Cook anyway, Damien Cook. Now, reality is that Damien Cook will come in, Adam Reynolds will come in, which I think was probably someone they did look at anyway, experience for New South Wales in the halves, and Now, that's pretty much a certainty that that's going to happen. I think that Cody Walker's now injured as well, so that was the option for 5'8", and now he's gone too. So question is, do you drop Nico Hines in? Because I'm not sure Luai is in that good form at the moment. You could ride with him if you're going to try to do a rebuild.
Yeah, look, I mean, don't forget there's still Mitchell Moses out there as well as a contender for that number 7 spot, and his game is not until Monday against the Bulldogs on the King's holiday. But a lot of people have said that Reynolds is probably maybe the favourite to get that spot, that number 7 spot, with him playing up in Brisbane for the last 18 months, and he's got that kicking game. He's played Origin before. He's played in front of big crowds. He knows Suncorp Stadium very well. So playing in front of a Queensland crowd probably won't hamper his performance, even though he's in blue and not maroon. But Nico Hines, he's sort of maybe... A lot of people have said too that he would be the favourite to get the spot as well, seeing as though he was the Dally M medalist last season and also the number 14 for New South Wales in Game 1. So you would probably maybe assume that he would just slot straight into that number 7 spot. But as I said, there's a few contenders for that spot. I probably personally would go for Adam Reynolds just because of that Suncorp Stadium factor. Probably a very close second would be Mitchell Moses, but you definitely have Nico Hines in that squad. I thought that Jerome Luai was probably one of the better New South Wales players in Game 1, if there was one. There wasn't too many good players in New South Wales, but I thought he was probably one of the better ones, so he may just hold his spot for Game 2.
See, the other thing that wouldn't surprise me at all, too, is if Brad Fittler called on Jack Whiten to have another crack until the end of the Origin series as well.
Bit of Alfie Langer style, you reckon? Call him out of retirement?
Yeah. Yeah, well, you never know. So he's still playing. He's still in form. So I've seen stranger things happen, so it wouldn't surprise me at all. You have got Mitchell Moses there. I wouldn't be surprised if he works his way onto the bench now if they need to go down some hybrid way of either keep Luai with Reynolds or go Reynolds with Nico Hines as well. Moses could get that extra spot. Someone said that Luke Brooks should get the spot. Number one, I don't know what games I've been watching this year. Luke Brooks is injured, thankfully, so it's not taking him out of the mix.
Yeah, copped a hamstring injury last night, so he won't be playing in the Origin series either. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know who or why anyone would suggest Luke Brooks. Great footballer, and as I said, has been playing some great footy over the last few weeks, but probably just not up to that Origin standard at the moment. And look, another factor also is if Latrell Mitchell is fit as well for Game 2. He's not playing for South Sydney this week, so if he's fit for Game 2, that would have been a good thing if Cody Walker was not injured, and then you could have had the pretty much the New South Wales spine would be South Sydney players with Damien Cook, Adam Reynolds, Cody Walker, and Latrell in the centres. If not Latrell, then you could probably put Campbell Graham in there.
Yeah, that's right. And you could probably have Cameron Murray. He could end up playing 5'8" too, you know, so you could hybrid that. I think you might get some dollar value out of Latrell actually dropping in there as well. If you wanted to really try to mix it up. Well, New South Wales done it with Sean Timmins in the past, played him like a defensive 5'8". Maybe if you got a running 5'8", get a different output altogether, that would change how Queensland need to play as well then too. So they're going to have to make changes if you went down that avenue.
Yeah, they have to mix it up. Obviously, Game 2 up in Queensland. Queensland are 1-0 up in the series. They don't want to be going up to into Game 3 in Sydney 2-0 down and facing a whitewash. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. I think the team gets picked on Tuesday, I think it is. So it'll be interesting to see how Brad Fittler and the selectors come up with their New South Wales team. Obviously, they've got to wait and see of the games that are played this week with injuries and the like, or suspensions. So, it'll be interesting to see who comes through. Whether we see Hudson Young retain his spot, whether we see Tavita Pangai Jr. retain his spot. The two debutants from game one. I would think that Nico would be there somewhere. If not starting, then definitely on the bench. So I think he will retain his spot. So, but as I said, maybe Hudson Young and Tavita Pangai Jr. are a bit under pressure to retain their spot. So it'll be interesting to see what Freddie and the selectors do.
Yeah, I can't wait to see. So I do think they'll probably err on the side of caution. So they're going to have to make changes, but we'll see what they actually do. So the kick-off tonight's games had the Raiders take on the Warriors down at Canberra, and the Warriors got up. They went about their business and put the cleaners through them, 36 points to 14. So it's a good win this time of year down in Canberra to get away from home.
Yeah, definitely. Well, this is not the Warriors of old. This is a new style of Warriors team under new coach Andrew Webster. They're not like a roller coaster. They're pretty consistent with their footy this year, both home and away. So I think this is their fourth win on the road away. So they're playing some really good footy. Unfortunately for Jared Croker, congratulations to him. He played his 300th NRL game tonight against the Warriors. Unfortunately, didn't get the win down there in Canberra. I think they had a crowd of 21,802 or something. So great turnout there for Jared's 300th. Look, it was anybody's game right up until half time. It was 8-6 to the Raiders. And then just in that second half, the Warriors just came out and blitzed it. It was pretty much the Sean Johnson show. He's really coming back into vintage form, Sean Johnson, and just leading this team around. And Dallin Zalesniak, he scored a cracker of a try in the corner. It's unbelievable. If the listeners of this didn't see it, then check out the footy highlights, NRL highlights of this try, because absolutely amazing. A crossfield kick from Sean Johnson, and it looked like it was going out, but it was right on the money and just inside the touching goal line, and Dallins jumped up and grabbed it and put it down. A remarkable try, but Wade Egan and Sean Johnson really led this team around. A bit of a scare for Sean Johnson. He went off the field late in the game after what you could call like an accidental head clash. I think it was with Elliot Whitehead. A bit of bleeding from the mouth, but he went off. But he came on and scored the last try of the game. So, vintage Sean Johnson.
There you go. I think that must have been a good performance there. So he has been good. He was good at the back end of last year too. I think Andrew Webster, he's just cracked the code. There's only been a couple of coaches who've done anything special with the Warriors. One was Daniel Anderson. One was Ivan Cleary, strangely enough. And now you got Andrew Webster. And I can tell you, so he was the most underrated out of all these guys. People didn't know why the Warriors were picking him. But he's going quietly about his business and getting the job done. And they're going to be sitting up in the top 8 again now. I think that'll put them up in around 4th or 5th or something like that, won't it? I'm pretty sure it will.
Yeah, 5th position at the moment on the table. So obviously with a few games to come this round, so they may only drop down to 6th spot. So they're well entrenched into the top 8 at the moment. 8 wins for the season. So yeah, they're playing some great footy, and as you said, a new coach into the team, new coach in the setup. I think the players are really buying in. They've got a couple of new buys as well. But yeah, as I said, Sean Johnson, he's loving life back in New Zealand. So if you have a good off-field life, it shows on the football field. So he's loving being back in New Zealand, and maybe, just maybe, he might go around for another season for the Warriors.
Yeah, I think it absolutely does show. So I definitely think he's got another season in him for sure. It's got plenty more to add. It'll give Warriors time and to find the right halfback as well, which I think they're having a look for to get the possession planning in place. We'll roll on now to the next game, which is on now. So 45 minutes in, and Manly are up against the Dolphins, 28 points to 6. I'm telling you, these guys are the hot and cold experts of the year. 1 week they're on, 1 week they're off, and you don't know what week's going to be what at the moment.
Yeah, well, they've just scored, as you were just saying that, so it's now 34-6 in favour of the Manly Sea Eagles in the second half. So, look, Manly just came out and blitzed them right in the first half. It was 28-6 in the first half. So, yeah, they just seemed to score some pretty easy tries. Most of them up the middle, a few out wide. Tommy Turbo's back. A little bit of conjecture whether he should be playing or not. Obviously suffered a HIA in a concussion in State of Origin #1, but he's back playing tonight, and it sort of looks like he's having fun out there. He just scored his second try, so looks like he's having fun out there. And yeah, a good crowd in at Manly tonight, and the Dolphins, well, they've really struggled tonight. They're just missing tackles, and Manly are scoring some easy tries, and don't know if they can come back from where they are at the moment.
Yeah, actually, the way it looks like it's going in the game, I wouldn't be surprised if they might cop a 50 here. So they just look flat. So it's their first time up too for some of their young guys going into the Origin series and that sort of stuff. So they'll be first time exposed to the fun and games that come with Origin, people being out injured or out rested or whatever the case is. So they'll learn a lot from this, I suppose. But it'll be tough because they're only on the fringe of the 8 at the moment anyway. I think they're sitting in 8th, just in the 8, so they're going to probably drop out after this game. And it's going to probably be one of them seasons they'll either be in, just in, or just out at the end of the season.
Yeah, they're sitting in 8th position at the moment. Obviously, the Roosters may overtake them if they get the win over the weekend. But, yeah, look, a tough night at the office so far for the Dolphins. They welcomed back Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow tonight he had the week off last week after State of Origin 1, so they've welcomed him back tonight, but he hasn't really done anything, to be honest, I think, in this game. Neither have many of the Dolphins, but Jermaine Asako scored their only try, and he's probably been their player of the year so far this year.
Yeah, he would be. It's a very good pickup. Get him into the side. We're going into the games tomorrow now. So St George Illawarra, who's sitting in last place, they got a tough game up against South Sydney. So I'm pretty sure Latrell's going to want to put on a performance to make sure he definitely gets his spot. He will. And there's going to be a lot of guys out there that want to aim up tomorrow.
Going to be a bit hard for Latrell to do anything because he's not playing in this game, and also Cameron Murray, Cody Walker and Jai Arrow are out of this game as well. So they've got some superstars out, the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Jack DeBellin's out for the Dragons, I think, doing the 11-day concussion stand down after suffering that against the Panthers last week. So look, I thought the Dragons played pretty good against the Panthers last week. They gave them a good run for their money, but they just fell away in the end, and the Panthers got the win. But they are struggling this year, and two traditional rivals, and this game's played at Kogarah as well. So, history between these two sides. I think South Sydney will be too strong for the Dragons. Damien Cook is captaining the side this week. He'll want to have a good performance to get that number 9 spot, even though we do think that he will get it now with the injury to Abby Coruscant. Campbell Graham, he'll be pushing for a centre spot in New South Wales side. A lot of people said he was unlucky not to get that spot in game 1. So, yeah, I think the South Sydney Rabbitohs will get the win over the Dragons in this one.
Yeah, I think they will too, ultimately. So South's got too much depth at the moment. I think the Dragons are a bit all over the place. De Belin, could he make the State of Origin squad? He would be a choice because they've gone down the avenue looking at before. Since he's come back from his long-term stand-down suspension, I don't think he hit the lofty heights he had before he had to stand down, unfortunately for him.
No, he hasn't. There was a little bit of talk about him for game one, but he didn't get selected. I think it might be hard for him to get selected for game two, seeing as though he's out this week. So who knows? If New South Wales go down in game two, then we may see, I won't call him fresh blood, but new team members in the New South Wales side for game three. And he may be one of them, even though he's played State of Origin before. So, but I don't think he'll make game two.
Yeah, that's right. So next game got the Broncos, who are sitting in second place at the moment on 4 and against behind Penrith. They're taking on the Knights tomorrow afternoon, so up at Suncorp. How do you reckon that's going to go?
Yeah, look, same as the Warriors. The Broncos are a different side in 2023. They're, as you said, second on the Premiership table, only on 4 and against behind the Panthers, who also play this weekend as well at Suncorp Stadium. Brisbane are pretty much a full-strength squad, so I think they may do it quite easily against the Newcastle Knights, who they've got a fairly full-strength squad as well. Tyson Frizzell's back in, Jackson Hastings at half, Tyson Gamble 5'8", playing against his old club. So this could be interesting. I mean, Dane Gagai, he missed out on game one. He's been a Queensland regular for the last few seasons. He'll want a point to prove to Billy Slater, so his battle up against Katoni Staggs will be an interesting one. Maybe he might get selected for game two, although you would probably think that why change a winning side? You probably keep the same squad as game one. Kalen Ponga, he's already ruled himself out of the State of Origin series, so he won't be playing State of Origin football this year, but so important for Newcastle that he's in their squad. Coming off a bye last week as well, the Newcastle Knights, so they'll be fresher than the Broncos, but I think the Broncos will get away with this one.
Yeah, I think the Broncos will get away with it too. Just Newcastle there, hit or miss. Like, they need Jackson Hastings to aim up. They need some of their real good players to aim up, and they've got to do it week in, week out. I think the Broncos have got a pretty good side humming along all right. Even if you take a couple of guys out of the Origin mix there, I think they'll still look pretty good. And it's going to be a tough encounter for Newcastle. So I think the Broncos get over that. The next game, so these guys are going to have a point to prove the Roosters when they played Penrith last time, if I'm right. I think the Panthers won, 48-4? Was it 48-4? So the Roosters have got the Panthers at home anyway tomorrow night at 7:35.
Yeah, 48-4 it was at the foot of the mountains. The Panthers really gave the Roosters a touch-up for that game. The Roosters coming off a win against the Bulldogs 25-24 in a close, tough game up at Gosford last week. Look, I'm going to tip the Roosters in this game, and the only reason is Nathan Cleary's out for the Panthers. That's a massive loss. We all know that. We saw last season when he was suspended for, I think, 5 weeks. Penrith did lose a couple of games, I think. So, look, it's not Penrith aren't a one-man team. They do have a team of players that have won premierships. So they've gone back to back in the competition. So, but Nathan Cleary is a big loss. Although, in saying that, Jack Cogger, who comes into the squad for Nathan, he played pretty good against the Dragons last week. He went all right. I think if he can just do his job, run, tackle, kick, then it's time for Jerome Luai to step up and run this team around. If he can do that and the Panthers get the win, it might do him good for getting selected for New South Wales for game two. But Look, I think the Roosters will get this win. It was a tough win against the Bulldogs last week, but I think the Roosters will be up for this game, and they might just get it. It'll be a close game, though.
Yeah, I would think the Roosters can probably get a game because they don't have as many players out injured. He looked all right last week. The centre that scored a try for Roosters, he was all right. I'm trying to remember. The other winger, number 5, he was pretty good too. I can't remember his name. He scored a try near the end of the game to help seal it before Kiri kicked the field goal. He's good. So Penrith got too many people missing. So Cogger is definitely the right person to have, Jack Cogger, at half. The alternative, if it's not him, then the alternative then is to come back to Kurt Falls, I imagine. Penrith probably don't want to go down the avenue because they're going to get stretched pretty thin if they start busting these guys up, because both of those guys are NRL experienced first grade players. So Jack Cogger was playing with the Knights, I think, in the past. So I would think the Roosters, if they play well and they've got it in them, so they had to do it last week against Canterbury, I think they could actually get a decent win against Penrith here, like win by 10 plus.
Yeah, I think, as you said, they obviously want Jack Cogger to do his job. They signed him for a reason. The Panthers lost Sean O'Sullivan to the Dolphins last year, or for this year, and they need a replacement halfback for when Nathan's on representative duty. Obviously, this week he's out injured, so he's previously played for the Newcastle Knights and the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. So I think he's played about 48 odd games or so. So he's got a little bit of experience, and he'll know what to do. And as I said, there won't be that much pressure on him. He just needs to go out and do his job. And Jerome really needs to run this side around. And if the Panthers are going to get a win, then Jerome will have to put in a man of the match performance.
Well, I think Jerome Luai needs to do this anyway because he's up. His contract's up at the end of this year. Next year might be, and Penrith are looking at the option at the moment. So they're probably realistically only going to keep one out of the two of Jerome Luai or Dylan Edwards. They might be able to keep both. They're both going to have to take a bit of a hit on what they're probably valued at to keep them. And my choice, I would probably be saying to keep Dylan Edwards at the moment. Although, because things go well with Cleary, they might want to keep Jerome Luai. So,
well, there was a bit
of tough choice, but
a little bit of talk during the week that Dylan Edwards is looking at a big contract extension with the Panthers. News today, as we record this, Scott Sorensen has signed another 3-year deal, I think it is, with the Panthers.
Yeah, 3 years, yep.
Yeah, so he's scored himself an extension. There's also Liam Martin, I think, off contract as well. So there's a lot of decisions that the Panthers management and coaches are going to have to make as to who they're going to keep. So, yeah, as you said, Jerome may be under a lot of pressure as well to keep his spot at the Panthers, at the Panthers club. Nobody likes to see a team broken up, but that's what the Premiership does. That's what Premiership wins do. You end up losing players.
Yeah, that's right. And if it happens, then it shows the salary cap's working properly. So that's what it's about, equalisation of talent. So Penrith had to make 2 tough decisions last year as well. I reckon 3 really. Letting Sean O'Sullivan go is tough. It was a tough gig. He was always going to go chasing first grade, but Isaiah Katoa and Jermaine Hopgood, letting both of those guys go. They're talented guys, but how many can you keep? And if a guy's not playing first grade, they're probably going to want to move on.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll kick on to the next game now. So got the Storm up against Cronulla. So I don't think the Storm are going to get whacked hard twice, 2 weeks in a row like last week. I'm going to bet they're going to come out with some sort of steely resolve on Sunday, but my money's going to go on the Sharks to come down and knock them off again. Okay,
that's an interesting one. I'm going to go for the Storm in this one, and as you said, I think the Storm don't lose 2 games in a row too often. and they got absolutely smacked by the Cowboys 45-14, I think it was. First time the North Queensland Cowboys have put 45 points on the Melbourne Storm, so I would not have liked to have been a Melbourne Storm player at training this week, because I dare say they would have got a bit flogged. Yourself being a coach, you'd probably know about that. Anyway, these two teams are fierce rivals, and I think it extends back to that 2016 grand final. Ever since then, they've had some great tussles, some tough battles against each other. It's going to be really interesting. Big out for Melbourne Storm is Justin Olam, who's on that 11-day stand-down period, so big out for them, which is very unlike. You wouldn't think that anyone would give Justin Olam a HIA, but with his hard head, but he's obviously succumbed to that. Big test for Nico Hines as well. He's up against Jerome Hughes and Cameron Munster as well, so a little bit of a, obviously not Jerome, but Cameron, a bit of a State of Origin flavour there as well, so even though he's not playing halfback, but so big test for Nico. The Sharks haven't beaten a top 8 side this year, so a big test for them.
Yeah, the only side in the top 8 that's done it too. I think no one else. Even West Tigers have beaten more top 8 sides than what they have, which is scary.
Yeah, well, the Tigers beat the Panthers, didn't they? So, yeah. So though the Sharks will want to get a win against the top 8 side, because obviously you can't win the competition if you can't beat the top 8 side. So, look, I think Melbourne are going to get away with this win. It could be a good, fierce battle, and I think it'll be probably about a 8-point win to the Storm.
Yeah, I think the opposite will happen. I think Cronulla will probably, but the Storm just don't look the same now. So when they cop a big loss or 2 losses in a row, that it looks like it hurts them more mentally now than what it has in the past. They're not the same team without Ryan Pappenhausen. Before he was injured, I honestly thought they would win the comp last year. I go for Penrith. I thought, wow, if these guys scare me a fair bit. Then when he shattered his knee, that's the best description I suppose could give of it, and that's being generous. It was worse than that. They just don't have that. Like Nick Meaney's not Ryan Pappenhausen, he never will be. So no matter how good anybody they put there is, Fraser Wishart, anybody, doesn't matter. They're not Ryan Pappenhausen. They're never going to get that job done, unfortunately, and do the same job. But
news
do
this
think
week.
they'll have a tough day.
Yeah, look, news this week that Paps is probably going to be back in about 6 to 8 weeks, maybe. There was reports on the paper on the website as well that it was 3 to 4, but Paps came out and put that straight. It's gone, no, it's not 3 to 4. It's more likely 6 to 8, maybe. So hopefully late this year we'll see him back on the field, obviously through the Sunshine Coast Falcons first, a couple, maybe 1 or 2 games up there in Queensland, just to get that game fitness back, and then hopefully we'll see him back in the NRL, because he's a great player, and probably a real handy player to have come back semi-final time as well, with the experience that he has and what he can bring to the table. So it'll be good to see Paps back.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him back on the field too. So I reckon he was one of the most electrifying players in the competition. So when he got injured, so surely that won't change if his knee recovers well. They can come back and run freely again. And in the last game, so you're not going to like this either, I'm going to go for the Bulldogs against the Eels, because I thought the Bulldogs, I think they blew it, to be honest with you, last week against the Roosters. They had the Roosters cooked. And then number 6, their 5'8", he put a grubber through, didn't need to get, and then the Roosters managed to get a try off the back of that, like later in the play, and then you dropped another ball when they really had a big chance of putting the Roosters to the sword. They had about 3 chances to probably have field goals and didn't take them. One of those times they had a chance to score a try and ended up dropping the ball like 4th tackle when they were going close. So all they need to do is keep a bit more pressure on and just cut out some of the 1%ers that they try to do, and they probably would have got the game done.
Yeah, I like your play on words there. They had them cooked, the Roosters, so that was a good play on words there. But no, you're right. They were, I think, 12-0 up, and they were looking pretty comfortable against the Roosters. But then the Roosters came back. But look, this game will be a tough game against the Eels, who have had probably a week from hell. Obviously, we all know about the Dylan Brown situation, so we won't go too much into that one. And then there was the media session at Kellyville training as well. Bit of distractions there, which was all talked about in the papers, so we won't go into that one too much. So the Eels players will just want to get on the field and play some footy. They welcome back big Regan Campbell-Gillard from injury. He did his hip and groin against the Broncos up in Darwin, so he's been out for about 8 weeks. So they welcome back into the starting lineup. Junior Paolo comes back after the Eels had the bye after the State of Origin game. Andrew Davies back after serving that 11-day stand down, which was handy having the bye during that week. So they got a few players out as well. Obviously, Dylan Brown is out due to that new no-fault stand-down policy that the NRL has. They've enforced that. It probably looks like Dijon Arcee will come in and play in that role for Parramatta in the number 6. He has played a handful of games in the NRL before, so it won't be his debut game. So apparently he is very similar to the way that Dylan plays as well. So very similar players. So it'll be good to see him put on that. Well, it won't be number 6. It'll be probably number 18 or something like that. But he'll play in the number 6 role. So it'll be interesting to see. Reid Marnie, he comes back as well. When I say come back, he's had 2 HIAs in 2 weeks, so very interesting that he is playing. According to Phil Gould on Twitter, he's followed all the NRL protocols and doctors' protocols and passed all those, and will continue to follow those protocols right up until Monday, and he's been named to play. So I thought maybe... I'm no expert, but after 2 HIAs in a row, I thought maybe he would have had to have sit out this week, but obviously that's not the case. But a few players in the Bulldogs side looking to maybe get a State of Origin berth. Matt Burton, who played in last year's series, potentially a bench spot, maybe a centre spot if Latrell isn't playing. Josh Adokar as well. He'll probably get a spot on the wing there for New South Wales, but he'll probably have to step it up as well. Tavita Pangai Jr., he had a quiet game in Game 1. Probably we didn't see that enforcer role that I think Brad Fittler got him in for. So he'll want to have a big one. Jermaine Hopgood for Parramatta, he may be pushing for a Queensland bench spot, which will be interesting. Queensland have got a few forwards out at the moment, so there's going to be some changes there. And of course Mitchell Moses as well, going for that halfback role, so he'll want to have a big game on Monday before the team gets selected on Tuesday.
Yeah, absolutely. The big thing is, I reckon Matt Burton, so there's the X Factor one out of the blue too, so he can play 5'8" as well. Would you pick him at 5'8"? Maybe he's someone that Brad Fittler would be looking at as well, because then you don't have to start bastardising the team too much and playing people out of positions. If you put him into 5'8", that's sort of the normal gig for him anyway. Would be an interesting choice, and I think he'd fit in all right with Adam Reynolds or potentially Nico Hines. The question is, if you pick Nico Hines and you went for someone like Matt Burton, would you pick Adam Reynolds? And would you pick Adam Reynolds or would you pick Adam Reynolds on the bench? Or would you pick him at 5'8" and play Nico Hines at 7? But there's a couple of questions. Brad Fittler will announce the team in the next couple of days or week or whatever, so we're going to find out anyway what he's thinking. The Cody Walker injury, I think that buggered up his plan B, which would have been to go for Reynolds and Cody Walker. That's probably off the table now.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. With the Eels, I suppose the other option you got at 5'8" there, you got Bryce Cartwright too. Not sure if he can still do the job as good as he could when he played at Penrith and Gold Coast. He'd do a whole lot of stuff when he was playing, but he'd pretty much do everything. So I think he's matured a lot more as a player now. So he's more consistent player, probably not as good as what he was when he was younger, but he gets the job done. So he would do a job as well at 5'8", covering for Dylan Brown too.
Yeah, he could fill into that role if need be. There has been talk of Clint Gutherson going into 5'8", and maybe Sean Russell going back to fullback, and maybe Hayes Dunster coming onto the wing, but or even Bailey Simonson going back to fullback. So there is a few options there for that 5'8" role. But I think you'll see RC come in and play that role. But, look, if need be, there's definitely a few options there for Parramatta in that 5'8" role. The interesting thing will be if Mitchell Moses does get picked for State of Origin, what the 5'8" halfback role will look like for Parramatta moving forward.
Yeah, so that's going to be the big thing. The obvious... Well, it's not so obvious anymore now that Jake Arthur's gone over to Manly. What does that look like for the Eels? I'm not sure. So they've got some talented young guys coming through. Someone will stand up. This is the time when people get the opportunity to show what they can do and prove. So I suppose the only thing going against Adam Reynolds for State of Origin, I'm pretty sure you said a couple of years ago when he didn't get picked again, he was still at South. Did he say retired or so? I remember something weird like that happening where maybe he didn't say retired from Origin, but he said he knew he was done or something like that. So I perceived that meant he was retired, but I don't know. We'll wait and see what happens. So there's going to be some big choices coming up in the next couple of weeks with everything that's going to happen for Origin number 2.
Yeah, I think he's ready to go. He's come out this week and said, if picked, I'm ready to go. So I don't think he actually retired from State of Origin footy. So he'll be ready if picked. And as I said, he may be the one in the box seat. So we'll just have to wait and see who Freddie and the selectors go for.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So what have you got on this weekend, Troy? Anyway.
Just a bit of work on Saturday and Sunday. I'm not too sure what we've got planned. There's only the one game on Sunday, the Storm and the Sharks. So there's only the one game to watch, and Parramatta play on Monday. So not too sure. Maybe obviously chat to you on Sunday, and then we might even crack open. I got Parramatta Monopoly the other day, so I may even crack that open. We might have a family game of Parramatta Monopoly.
Yeah, that'll be all right. So if you get Tollgate Hotel and then get like a Northmead Pizza Hut.
Well, I'll be going for Combank Stadium myself. See if I can get that one.
Yeah.
But other than that, not a great deal. I've got at the moment out, which came out yesterday, the Adam Meritzen podcast, episode 179. So that's a real interesting listen. So talks about obviously his career and obviously his injury that he suffered. The memory isn't too good, and that's understandable, but it was still good to hear that he's happy and healthy and watches a bit of footy these days as well. And it's an interesting chat. So that one's out now on Apple and Spotify. Yeah,
there you go. I'll make sure I listen to that. I do want to hear that because I think he was the youngest first grade prop, I think, ever in the NRL. Might have been ever when he came in at 16 years old with Cronulla. Before he went to the Eels, and he got targeted. They picked him off deliberately because they thought he's a young guy and they'll just smack him around. And he ended up suffering brain injuries or something like from just concussion after concussion after concussion. And it nearly destroyed him, really.
Yeah, you're right. He did debut at 16 years of age, which you can't do these days, obviously, in the NRL, but back then you could, and it was Arthur Beetson who spotted him and asked him to play first grade. And yeah, look, his injury that he suffered against Canberra was a high tackle from John Lomax, Parramatta in Canberra, Parramatta Stadium, and it was a good thing and it was a bad thing, if you know what I mean, because obviously it was a bad thing because it ended his career, but it was probably a good thing because he probably didn't know that he had the cyst on the brain until they did the scans. So
that's what I heard that too. So you said before that that injury got him checked for other stuff, and then they found cyst on the brain, which you didn't know he had. So.
Yeah, that's it. And he says in the podcast too that some people have it and can live with it. It doesn't affect them. Maybe with a contact sport like rugby league, obviously you probably can't carry on like that because the dangers would probably be too high.
Yeah. So that's sad that they put it. He's only a couple of years older than us. Still, I think it's only like in his late 40s. I don't even think he's 50 yet, is he?
No. So, so I think he retired at like 20 or 21, retired from rugby league. So, it was a shame because it represented City Origin back in the day when that was around, and obviously had the potential and could have went on to bigger and better honours as well. State of Origin Australia, played for the Australian Schoolboys back in 1993 with Anthony Mundine and Solomon Hamono. So a couple of good players there. So the rugby league was always a part of his life. So it was a shame the way that his career ended, and we didn't get to see the best of Adam Ritson.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate. So, unfortunately, there's been lots of stories of that. So, it's just bad. So, it's a good example of what can happen in rugby league. Shows is a brutal contact sport, and it's not for the faint-hearted. It knocks people around. So, and Adam Ritson would be a good example of that. So, I'm glad that he is getting on with his life, and I look forward to catching that tomorrow.
Yeah, check it out. Available on Apple and Spotify, and please leave a 5-star rating and review if wanting to.
There you go. Absolutely no worries at all. Troy, thanks very much for your time. I really appreciate it, and I will chat to you again on Sunday.
No worries, Duckman. Anytime. Thank you very much for having me. Enjoy your footy.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. See you next time.